This episode of the ABIC podcast is brought to you by BLC Cosmetics. Hello and welcome to the ABIC podcast, your online support community for the aesthetic and beauty industry. Here, we're strengthening and unifying the industry through representation, innovation, and education. This is a platform created and dedicated to the aesthetic and beauty industry, valuing unity and advancement. We serve to represent, support, and inspire you by connecting you with industry experts, expanding your knowledge through educational pieces, and bringing you the latest industry news. This is the ABIC podcast. I'm your host, Stephanie Miller, and today's guests are Dr. Simon Jackson from Davines and Hayley May from BLC Cosmetics. Dr. Jackson specialises in identifying and developing bioactive compounds from plants, marine life, and other natural sources for therapeutic applications. His work bridges traditional medicine with modern pharmaceutical science, exploring chemical compositions and biological activities that hold promise for treating conditions like cancer, infectious diseases, and metabolic disorders. Dr. Jackson is recognised for his innovative approaches and dedication to advancing natural product science. Hayley May is a dynamic leader with over 15 years of experience in sales, business development, and team management within the beauty industry. As head of sales at BLC Cosmetics, Hayley focuses on expanding BLC's reach and strengthening its B2B and wholesale channels through strategic, results-driven approaches. Known for her mentorship and commitment to team success, she excels at building client relationships and creating innovative solutions that boost salon success and elevate market visibility. Here to discuss pharmacognosy and its relevance in the skincare and wellness industry for BLC Cosmetics, today we welcome Dr. Simon Jackson and Hayley May. Welcome to the podcast, Dr. Simon and Hayley. How are you today?
Well, thank you. Thanks,
Well,
Steph.
thank you. Good morning, everybody.
It's so nice having the both of you. I have to say, usually it's a one-on-one podcast, but I love it when I have two guests because it gets dynamic, it gets exciting, and we do have lots of different points of view to share as well. And especially exciting today is because it's a topic that I don't think we've ever talked about this on our podcast before. It's about pharmacognosy, and I hope I've said that correctly, and all about the company and about the wonderful synergy between BLC and Davines as well. And before we start, we would love you to tell our listeners all about your journeys into the beauty and aesthetic industry. How did it start, Hayley?
Yeah, thanks, Steph. It's been around 15 years now, and it started in the hair but has led down the garden path of the beauty industry. And I'm very passionate about hair, beauty, wellness essentially. And I've landed at BLC and really excited there to work with our brand partners, our beautiful BLC community, and our team to really understand the business of skincare and how it can help our brand partners grow and essentially them support their clients. So yeah, it's been a beautiful industry. It's such a fun industry to be part of. Like, I absolutely adore it, and very grateful to meet people like Dr. Simon and have his expertise come and share his knowledge with our team and now our community, which is fantastic.
And that's so wonderful. And of course, BLC Beauty Loves Community. Oh my goodness, I think that would have to be the absolute best name for a company and for, partners of clinic. When I heard it, I was like, wow, blown away. Talk about the synergy between ABIC and BLC in terms of how much we love the community. And of course, BLC is proud foundation members of the Aesthetic and Beauty Industry Council. That is huge. It is the biggest way to support the industry and the most, most significant partnership with ABIC to help our industry raise benchmark standards, to advocate for us in government. So thank you so much for that incredible partnership and your generosity.
Steph, when we first met and started talking about it, the synergies were there, right? Like we both aligned, we both had the same vision of what we wanted, how we wanted to support the industry. And I think it's just a perfect partnership, and I'm really excited to see where it goes.
Oh my goodness. And then through that partnership, we get access to experts and geniuses and incredible innovators in the industry, just like Dr. Simon. Tell us about yourself and your journey into the beauty and aesthetics industry, because it is incredible.
Thanks, Steph, for that great introduction. And we're also very happy to partner with Hayley and the team at BLC as well. It's very exciting. So my background is I'm a pharmacognosist. So well done both of you for saying it correctly. I'm very impressed. But yeah, so I started my journey quite a few years ago, about 32 years ago actually, and I studied at King's College in London. You can probably tell by my accent, I'm not from Australia or from Italy, but originally my family are from Scotland. Davines was set up 41 years ago. It was set up by the Belatti family. So the Belatti family is an Italian family, it's a mum and dad, and they set up the business 41 years ago. And their children were called Davide and Stefania. So Davide is Dav, and Stefania is a fantastic name. But her nickname was Nessie. I don't know if people call you Nessie.
No, but my name is Stefania, actually.
Yeah, so
People call me Stephanie, but yes.
Davide and Stefania shortened, David and Nessie, was Davines, and that's where the name came from. So it's a really lovely family name that was kind of created. And obviously the parents have since retired, and the children, Davide and Stefania, are still very much involved in the business. Davide is now the president of the Davines Group. And within the Davines Group, you've got both the hair care and the skincare. So I work at the corporate level. So I'm the head of botanical research for Davines Group, but I manage both the hair care and the skincare for the botanical supply chain and botanical research. And obviously today we're going to talk about skin regimen, which is one of our key product lines, and that's what we're launching in Australia later on today. So it's very exciting.
How exciting. And you're a pharmacognosist. Can you please start by explaining pharmacognosy and how it applies in skincare?
Well, to start with, I'm really happy that everybody's actually talking about pharmacognosy, because it's a subject that isn't that fashionable, I guess. So pharmacognosy, a lot of people have never heard of it, so don't worry. It's not yourself. It's a lot of people are Googling pharmacognosy. Well, pharmacognosy has been around for a very long time. Pharmacognosy is the study of medicines from natural products. So when we say medicines, my background is I trained as a pharmacist. So I trained as drug discovery in pharmacy at King's College in London. So the son of the founder, Davide, is also a pharmacist. So when I met him, he was one of the very few people that actually knew what I was talking about, which is very nice. But what's really amazing for me is Davines Group have actually put pharmacognosy as one of the key pillars for the whole business. So for me, everything that we do at Davines Group in both hair care and skincare is based on pharmacognosy. And as I say, pharmacognosy is the study of medicines from natural products. But if I give you an example, you've heard of aspirin. I'm sure you've probably taken an aspirin in your time. Aspirin, the Latin name for Latin is salicylic acid. And in North America, the First Nation peoples in North America, if they were giving birth during childbirth, they used to take the bark of the tree and they used to chew the bark of the tree, but they knew that the bark of the tree contained an analgesic, or what we call a pain relief. And that's where aspirin came from. So salicylic acid is found in the bark of the willow tree, and the willow tree grows in North America, and it was the native population who knew that they should chew the bark of the tree for pain relief. So this, for me, as an undergraduate, I was very excited about, wow, this is great, learning from traditional, medicine healers, really. So what I do is I get to travel the world and get to work with traditional healers from all over the world. So if you think about it, if you look at a map of the world, I think the statistics from the World Health Organization is 74% of the world's population use plants as primary healthcare. So that's a statistic you can quote. But if you think about the global billion population, that's a lot of people who still use plants for primary healthcare. And I guess in what might be called developed countries, we've moved away from using natural healthcare, natural products for healthcare. So I think there's a real interest now, especially I was talking about this with Hayley, with younger people, are really excited and really interested to learn from their elders and learn from the generations of work that's gone before. And that's what I do in a nutshell, is I study traditional medicine and then incorporate it into products that we can use and keep on that knowledge and education of pharmacognosy. So if you look at, again, a map of the world, in Africa, you've got African traditional medicine. I've worked a lot in Africa. In South America, you've got your shamans in South America. In China, you've got your traditional Chinese medicine. You've got your own indigenous knowledge here in Australia as well, which is fantastic. So every culture has their own knowledge base of traditional medicine. And I guess what we're trying to do is keep that alive, because as the elder generation are dying, the younger generation are not there to kind of take over that knowledge. So we're trying to keep it alive. And Skin Regimen for me is a fantastic product line to really keep that knowledge going and pass on that knowledge in a contemporary way to the next generation.
And Dr. Simon, when you were talking, it struck me that us in the Western civilization really don't feel that there's proof or efficacy in the traditional methods when we talk about, shamans and, traditional treatments in Africa. The first thing that we've been taught to do is does that even work? Is it woo-woo? What is it? And you're a scientist basically telling us that, hey, there's merit in it. Tell us why you think we in the Western world don't give it as much credit as it deserves.
Yeah, and it's a really good question. And if I knew the answer, it would save me a lot of time and effort. But I think over the years, what I've seen is a bit of a roller coaster. Sometimes it's very fashionable, sometimes it's not very fashionable. I guess over in Britain, it's still seen as a bit of a hippie, a bit of a witchy poo type of thing, looking at natural products. But my background is in cancer research, so I specialize in oncology. So I did skin cancer research as it's my original kind of field. And I don't know if you know, but a lot of the chemotherapy that we use are from plants. So another example would be Taxol. So you've heard of the yew tree. So yew
Yes.
tree is a very famous tree that grows in Europe and North America, actually, Pacific. But there's a compound in the needles of the tree called Taxol, and we make a drug from it called paclitaxel. So women who are unfortunate to have breast cancer actually use the paclitaxel, which is from plants. So about 70% of all the chemotherapy that we use from plants is actually from plants originally. So people don't make that connection that chemotherapy actually is originally plant-derived compounds. I know it's made synthetically because you obviously have to make large volumes to treat patients. But in answer to your question, I think the younger generation are making that connection now. I guess my generation, I'm a Generation X, probably weren't that interested in natural products. They wanted to take a tablet to get rid of a headache, and that was the magic bullet. But I think the more alternative or the younger kind of crowd are very interested in the medicine, the natural products. And from my perspective, and you talked about efficacy, it's about making sure that you're using medical grade ingredients. So the shamans, the traditional healers, they know what the medicinal grade is. They know the exact formulation. They know exactly the concentrations, and that's really the difference. Is a lot of people are using natural products, and there's a whole clean beauty movement happening at the moment, but they're not using it at the right concentration. So when people are using the product, it might not be efficacious, so then they won't use it again. So if you create products that are efficacious, people will keep using it, and then they'll realize there is a real, use of this ingredient.
Pharmacognosy is based in science. It is a science and nature, I would say, approach. And it is evidence-based. So there is definitely evidence out there that you get results, right?
Absolutely. So I'm going to use some more big words. There's something called a pharmacopoeia. You've probably never heard of that one, but
I have heard
a
of that one.
pharmacopoeia. You have, okay. Well, a pharmacopoeia, if you talk to any chemist, any pharmacist, a pharmacopoeia is like a Bible. And in the pharmacopoeia, you have a little page for every single plant. So, for example, chamomile, we all know chamomile. Chamomile is an anti-anxiety, it's a sedative, but it's also a lenitive. It's something you can put on the skin and it calms the skin down. But we have what's called a monograph for chamomile that you find in a pharmacopoeia. And that's what we're using in skin regimen, and the Davines group is actually using these monographs to actually test the raw materials and make sure that we've got pharmacy grade before we even put them into formulations.
Well, that's wonderful. Tell us, I'm dying to know, and I'm sure everyone's dying to know. Can you discuss a few specific botanicals used in skincare that actually demonstrate this approach? You said chamomile. What else?
Sure. I mean, there's many ingredients out there. I think there's 39,000 medicinal plants that have been that are known to. So that there's plenty of ingredients out there that we could talk about. And as I say, I can talk about plants all day. A plant that we've been using a lot within the group is Achillea millefolium. I don't know if you've heard of that, but we call it yarrow. So you might have heard of yarrow. It's quite a popular plant. It can be taken orally. It's also something that you can put on the skin topically. Traditionally, it's been used with humans for millions of years. They actually found Neanderthals in the caves in Spain with traces of the Achillea on their teeth. So when archaeologists were looking, saying, why on earth have they got yarrow extract on their teeth? It's because the Neanderthals knew to take it as a medicine. You know, it's seen as a medicine. And it's a wound healer. So it's taken, if you cut yourself back in the day, before antibiotics, you could die from septicemia very easily. So anything that was good as a wound healer was fantastically prized as an ingredient. So I don't know if you've heard of this. There's a very famous story in the Alps in Italy. There was an iceman who was found. It was like a very old, thousands of year old iceman. He was frozen in the permafrost. And when he was defrosted, they found a little bag attached to him, and in the bag was some of this Achillea, the yarrow. So it's been used for thousands of years, and where you find humans, you find this yarrow. And I'm in Sydney, and I've just been to the Sydney Botanical Gardens, and they've got some beautiful yarrow in the Sydney Botanic Gardens. But it grows everywhere you find humans. And this is an example of how we've lost that knowledge and how we should reconnect again with these plants. So yeah.
That's a really beautiful story, very meaningful, and I love how you made the connection wherever you find humans, you find yarrow. That's actually beautiful, and it demonstrates the connection, deep connection that humans have with nature. Hayley, tell us, why do you think consumers are so drawn to skincare products rooted in this natural science, like, pharmacognosy?
Yeah, I think consumers today crave both trust and skincare results. Like they're looking for both when they're looking, to invest in a brand for themselves. And when we talk about natural science like pharmacognosy, tick, said that right. It's really about
Well
bringing,
done, Haley.
yeah, been practicing a lot. It's really about bringing the best of nature and pairing it with, solid science. And people love the idea that ingredients come from nature, but are also backed by research to prove that it actually works. Like they're really looking for that. There's something about this authentic, transparent, when it connects all the origins together when you're using something. And I mean, to be honest, we all want products that align with values like sustainability, ethical sourcing, wellness. And while we're delivering these amazing results for our skin, I think that's what people are genuinely looking for. So yeah, it's exciting.
It is, it is. It's like a reconnection to our, to our world, to our home, to our nature, to our environment, but with this deeper understanding that it's not magical, it is science-based, it is
Yeah.
something that is tangible in there, isn't it? So, Dr. Simon, we're seeing so much more of this focus on, and I love this word because it gives me tingles, skin longevity. Everybody wants to live forever. Everybody wants to look good for everyone. Everyone wants to feel good forever, but we want to extend I suppose, our lifespan, our health span, if you will. And they're really looking at it through like a science, we're looking at it through the eyes of like, the science-based formulations from the background. Can you actually explain the concept of longevity in terms of skincare and why that's an important goal.
Absolutely, and you're right. It's something that is of great interest to everybody. So the longevity is something that we've been studying in the Davines group for a long time. So skin regimen was actually born out of studying the longevity of skin cells. So we actually started this program about 12 years ago when we first launched the skin regimen onto the market. So we've actually advanced, as science is advancing as well. We've reformulated using a longevity complex.
BLC is dedicated to bringing the best in beauty, hair, and wellness to its community. BLC focuses on quality, innovation, and meaningful customer connections to create a real impact. Whether you're a salon professional or beauty enthusiast, BLC is here to support your growth with top-tier products and trusted expertise. Join BLC in redefining beauty standards, and together we can make a difference. Visit www.blccosmetics.com today.
And one of the key ingredients that we're using, and I've got a petri dish in front of me here, this is myrtle berries. So these are little berries, but myrtle berries. And the myrtle berries that we're using are from Sardinia. This is a blue zone in Italy, which is very exciting. And part of the diet of the local people is myrtle berries, but also what we've found is that the myrtle berries are very, very high antioxidants, they're incredibly high antioxidant. I think also because of the weather conditions in Sardinia, you've got these great, lovely summers and very sunny and high temperatures. But the berries are quite small. I say small but mighty. They're very packed full of exciting compounds. But what we do is we do a what's called a green extraction. And of these myrtle berries, what we're trying to do is kind of go back to traditional ways of extraction, rather than using harsh solvents, for example, which would be quite toxic in the sustainability chain. Is actually using very simple traditional ways of extracting. So in my world, we use a high polar solvent, and that would be something like water. So water would be, and water is obviously non-toxic, or glycerin, like a sugar-based extraction and stuff like that. So we're really looking at all parts of the cycle, where we're sourcing the raw material, how we're extracting the raw material. But each phase is making sure that it's completely sustainable, and it's obviously part of our, Davines ethics, of sustainability in the whole group. But from a longevity point of view, we've done some efficacy trials, and we've been working on what's called beta-galactosidase, which is an enzyme which is expressed actually when cells age or when they, when they get old. And what we've found is that we've got a reduction of beta-galactosidase by about 28%. So this is like a huge reduction of this enzyme that's been expressed by using, the longevity complex. And the effect of this on the skin cells, it actually decreases aging by 80%. So that's like a huge percentage. So the cell death rate is actually reduced by 80%. So that's why we're very excited about launching this skin regimen product range. So we've got an 80% reduction or 80% increase in cell life of the skin cells.
Wow, you've just blown my mind. We want cell longevity, but we want cell longevity so that it's a healthy cell, because obviously when a cell is aged and older, I suppose not performing the way that it should be, and then can mutate in the future. So we love things that we talk about intermittent fasting for autophagy or apoptosis. So we want to get rid of those older deficient cells, extending the life of a cell, but healthily. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and that's the thing, is it's all great, extending the life of cells, but you also need to make sure that you've got healthy cells. So it's with life as well. It's great if we can live to over 100 years old, like they do in Sardinia, by the way. It's got the greatest number in Europe of people over 100 years old, which is quite amazing. But there's no point being 110 if you're not healthy. So it's also about increasing the health of the cells in the skin as well. So So we talk about in skin regimen of things like senescent cells. So senescent cells are cells that obviously lie dormant in the skin, but it's how can we remove them so to keep the skin healthy rather than having lots of kind of dead, dormant kind of cells in the skin as well. So so yeah, so it's been a really exciting journey for us internally. But obviously the longevity complex has been a lot of work that's been happening in the background. So this hasn't just happened. It's been something that's been happening over the last decade.
And pharmacognosy just strikes me so much because we're talking about obviously nature and all the ingredients found in nature. It really emphasizes, I would think, working with nature and protecting nature. So I feel like everything that I'm hearing has an undercurrent of sustainability in it, and also Skin Regimen. Alex has also added certified B Corp. So you're a B corporation. You've got that title. Can you share some of the ways that pharmacognosy aligns with B Corp values and why you decided to do it?
Obviously, B Corp is what we call Benefit Corp, so it's a benefiting the planet corp. Again, it's one of our main pillars for the company. We've been a B Corp company for 16 years now, so we're one of the founders in the B Corp area, which is great. Again, I don't know if your listeners are familiar with B Corp, but it was set up by Patagonia, you know, the Patagonia team. So Patagonia, the sportswear brand, there's a very famous Yves Chouinard, who's the founder of Patagonia, actually organized the whole B Corp Benefit Corp organization. There's also a beauty coalition, which we're also one of the founder members of, a B Corp Beauty Coalition. So we're one of the founders of that as well, specific for beauty companies. And it's about how to support other beauty companies. So it's not so much about rivalry, it's about how do we work together to support each other in this industry, which I think is really exciting. And I was
That's
talking to
very
Hayley.
exciting.
Yeah, it's very different because normally it's quite a competitive
It
market,
is.
but it's really about how do we support each other to be better B Corp companies and benefit the planet better. And then from my perspective, from a pharmacognosy perspective, the supply chain links in with this whole B Corp process. So we have a life cycle assessment where we actually an LCA where we manage the whole life cycle and make sure that it's ethical and sustainable. And then from a plant selection perspective, we don't just pick a random plant and start studying it and putting it into a product. We have a whole plant selection methodology. So it's something that I've created internally where we actually select the plant because of its sustainability or because of its impact that it's going to have. So we have four kind of key areas that we focus on. One is socio-economic impact. Is this going to have a positive socio-economic impact to the local community? So if we're working with local indigenous farmers, you know, we want to benefit them. The second one is this going to have a technical impediment? You know, is it something, you know, like metal barriers is very easy to extract, but if it's something that you needed to develop a whole new procedure and technology, then that might slow down the process of doing that. We've also got the market. Is there actually a market need for this ingredient? You know, is it something that the market would be, you know, really interested in as well? And then environmental impact. You know, is there going to be a negative environmental impact by doing this? We don't want to pick a plant that grows at the top of Kilimanjaro and it flowers every 100 years, because that would become an endangered species. You know, we want to choose something that's not endangered. It's not on the CITES endangered species list. It's something that, you know, is very relatively common to get hold of and that we can benefit rural communities. So there's the whole landscape is very much based around sustainability and ethics.
Wow, that's a beautiful story. I love the completeness of the view of looking at every single aspect of sustainability and every single aspect of the process. It's such an incredible journey that you've explained as well, because being one of the original B Corp in the skincare industry and having that connection and bringing skincare companies together, I think is so vital. I am a massive proponent of it. ABIC is one to bring together a whole bunch of supplier and foundation members and there are a lot of them are skincare brands, and a lot of them are competitors, right? But within ABIC, we're not competitors, we're friends and we're allies, and we're helping the industry together, and we're helping people together. So I love that. And I love that we're talking today, and, I'm in skincare too, and there's no sense of competition there. It's like, pure love and joy for what we do. And that's so important. And Hayley, that's something that, is a huge philosophy as well, being a distributor. You actually focus, and BLC, I've noticed, focuses on environmentally responsible brands. As I said, as a distributor, you're bringing these skincare brands to the market, like Skin Regimen LX with its B Corp certification. How does this certification enhance, I suppose, the brand's appeal to, in particular, Australian consumers?
Yeah, I think Australians in particular are becoming, more and more every day conscious of the impact of the choices they have, not just on themselves, but the big world around us, right? So when a brand like Skin Regimen LX has a B Corp certification, it sends like a really huge trust signal, saying, "Hey, we're not just about making products; we're about making a difference." And it shows that we have, these really high standards of environmental but also social responsibility. And consumers love knowing they're supporting brands that care about the planet and people as much as they do. And I think when they go to make a decision around their skincare and what they are going to invest in, it makes that decision feel much more meaningful to them at the end of the day. And I think that's really important. And you've seen that shift in that Australian market really change over the years, which I love. So yeah, we're really proud to have Skin Regimen, also Comfort Zone, as well as our B Corp brands, and guide them through our market, and share this with everyone in our community.
Well, that's so wonderful. I love hearing this. I mean, this is really advanced thinking. This is, I love it because we're talking to real thought leaders in our industry, people who are pushing us forward and bridging the gap between, between companies, between people, between clinics. I mean, one of our founding principles is, community over competition. And I believe that there's enough there for everyone. There's such an abundance in this world that we can all help each other and we can all be successful. And I think that's such a beautiful message. So, Dr. Simon, can you walk us through this journey of formulating a skincare products with an eye on both efficacy, but also that eco-responsibility? How do you even start?
It's a really good question, and it's something that a lot of people ask as well. And as you see, we're trying to make it a lot more scientific. It's not so like random selection of different species. It's kind of, we're being very specific as to what we want to use, why do we want to use it, making sure that it's not an endangered species. The other thing I didn't mention was making sure that intellectual property is managed. So obviously for rural communities who might not have access to funds, it's to make sure that the intellectual property is owned by them, and making sure that they are part of the whole project as well. So that's something that's really important. But yeah, so from a natural product perspective, again, we're moving to more what we call green science. And green science to me is very much about not using harsh solvents, not using horrible chemicals that can't be biodegraded, using things that are going to be very gentle in the extraction process. A lot of natural products can be very volatile, so that if you expose them to light, they can break down, or if you expose them to temperatures, they can break down and things like that. And that's why a lot of people like to use synthetic ingredients, because they're a lot easier to manage and obviously a lot cheaper as well. So probably one of the reasons why a lot of people haven't been using natural products background is because it's not easy. It's not an easy route to market. But the good things never are easy. And I think sometimes you do have to pursue. So for me, it's about using low temperature extractions, potentially using extractions which aren't in direct sunlight, so you're kind of protecting the ingredients. And I guess what we're doing is we're mimicking the way that traditional healers would have been extracting things back in the day, because they obviously knew what they were doing, and plants have been extracted for thousands of years and used as medicines. And we're really kind of reverting back to that tradition, I think, of kind of using very simple techniques for extraction. I'll give you an example. Calendula, you've probably heard of marigold. You heard of marigold? So marigold, the Latin name is Calendula officinalis. anything officinalis is a medicinal plant. So again, I was in Sydney Botanic Gardens for quite a while yesterday, and
Oh,
there's some calendula there as well. But what we do with calendula, the oil is in the petals. So in some plants like chamomile, the oil you need to do what's called steam distillation, and that's where you boil the plant, and then the steam comes off, and then you condense it, and then you separate the oil and water. Calendula is a very simple one where you macerate. And when I say macerate, that means you just take a carrier oil, for example, sunflower oil, and you put the calendula into the sunflower oil, keep it in the dark because it's sensitive to light. And then the oil oozes out of the petals, and then you filter it 2 or 3 months down the line, and then you've got an extract. So that would be a calendula extract. So what we're doing in Italy is we're actually been growing calendula the last couple of years, and we've set up something called EROC. EROC is the European Regenerative Organic Centre. And one of the things that we're really trying to do at the moment is introduce regenerative farming. So we're kind of going beyond organic farming. We're going into regenerative farming where we're regenerating the soil. So our calendula, I'm not boasting, is probably one of the best calendulas out there. It's one of the highest grade. And again, using pharmacognosy to test the calendula to make sure that it does contain the active ingredients. And we're showing that we've got a higher level of the active ingredients than, say, just growing it organically. But by doing regenerative farming, we're getting higher concentration. So the active ingredient is called calendulin, funnily enough, from calendula. But calendulin is something which is really good for giving you soft, lenitive, soothing skin. It's very good for rosacea. It's very good for redness. You can use it on babies. It's very safe. It's a mother and baby pregnancy type ingredient. But we've been developing that over the last year, and I think I can say on the podcast we're actually launching it. It's a skin, face, body, and hair. It's a multi-use product. It's going to be a butter. So it'll be like a butter balm for face, body, and skin, using our regeneratively grown, regeneratively organic certified ingredient that we can put into products. And the same with the Skin Regimen LX. I mean, the myrtle berries that we've got here, we started out using organic myrtle berries, but these have just been certified as regenerative organic certified myrtle berries. So all of the new ingredients that we're bringing into Skin Regimen LX are going to be what we call ROC, or regenerative organic certified ingredients, which is very exciting.
And you've come up with that concept.
So the regenerative farming movement is a big movement at the moment. It's not something that we've invented, but we're heading up like what we call a lighthouse project in Europe, and we welcome anybody who's interested to kind of have a look online and find it. But EROC is like a flagship for us. We've set it up in front of Davines. It's a 46-acre site, which is about 17 hectares, so it's quite large. And my role really is to oversee the growing of the raw materials. As I mentioned, we've got the calendula project next year. This year we launched an Achillea millefolium product, which also launched under the Comfort Zone brand. And then every year we're bringing out new regenerative ingredients, which is very exciting. But we're partnering with the Rodale Institute. I don't know if you've heard of the Rodale. So Rodale Institute is in America, and the Rodale Institute was set up in 1946, quite a long time ago, and it's about introducing regenerative farming into the supply chain for food. But we're kind of pioneering in the kind of cosmetic space, really. So we've set this up as a flagship in Europe, but it'd be lovely to see something like that in Australia as well, actually. And we'd love to partner with people who are interested in what we're doing. But we work very much with local farmers in the regenerative space.
That's incredible. So, we know organic, we know biodynamic, and regenerative is those two, I suppose, practices melded together, plus you're replenishing the soil, you're then working the soil so that it comes back to a nutrient state. Because, of course, even the food that we eat these days, is nutrient deficient because our soil is so depleted. We keep farming it over and over again.
If you think about it, we've been talking about the skin, obviously, because we were talking about cosmetics, and the skin, services our bodies. The soil is like the skin on the planet, and it's like we're not really looking after the skin of the planet. And to really, have products that are going to be good for our skin, we need to make sure our soil is also looked after. So if any of your viewers have Netflix, there's a really good program or documentary called Kiss the Ground. I don't know if you've seen Kiss the Ground, but it's a very good documentary. It tells you all about regenerative farming. If you like Woody Harrelson, he's the narrator, so you can watch it just for Woody Harrelson. But it's a very good documentary, and it just gives you a bit of background. But it's becoming a global movement, and I guess what we're trying to do in Skin Regimen LX and Davines Group is really be pioneers in this in the cosmetic space. And I think your listeners and yourself, we're going to learn a lot more about regenerative ingredients over the next 5, 10 years, I think.
That's beautiful. I would love to have you back to specifically talk about these new technologies, but any other type of things we should be looking out for, like emerging ingredients or
Sure. We've been working on a lemon balm project. You've heard of lemon balm? So lemon balm is what we call Melissa officinalis. Again, it's another official medicinal plant. So lemon balm's been used for thousands of years. I take it as a tea. It's really nice because it's very calming and it's very good for jet lag as well. But lemon balm also grows in the Sydney Botanic Gardens. I saw some growing when I was there yesterday. But it smells of lemons. So when you take the leaf and you rub it, and it smells of lemons, so it's a beautiful smell. But it also contains rosmarinic acid. And rosmarinic acid is something really interesting for us because it promotes fibroblast growth. And as you know, as you get to my age, your fibroblast levels drop and you get a bit of wrinkly and sagging skin. But if you put rosmarinic acid on topically, you actually increase the fibroblast growth, which produces collagen. So you're actually producing your own collagen in your skin. So part of the Skin Regimen LX product range is going to extend next year, and we're going to be producing a Skin Regimen LX collagen serum produced using regenerative, organic, certified Melissa lemon balm from our E-Rock.
That's so beautiful. I mean, just even the idea of all these wonderful new emerging ingredients that you have just taken the ingredients that we use commonly, I suppose, but then amplified their effectiveness, use regenerative methods to, level up, so next level. And I think that it's exciting for the future. If you look forward into the future of our industry and ingredient technology, what do you see are the emerging trends? What do you see? Any great innovations in our industry over the next, say, 5 to 10 years?
Hayley, answer first. Ladies first.
I think, and Dr. Simon touched on this, and pharmacognosy, it is, something we've really discussed today, and it's exciting space because it's been around for a very long time, but it's becoming this word that people are starting to get to know and understand. And it's really, what we're talking about is bringing nature and science together in that sort of perfect harmony sense. And, like if I think about, what consumers are looking for when they're looking for products, they want to look for products that are effective, but that also align with those values. And, pharmacognosy proves that natural ingredients can be incredibly powerful. Like we're talking about, products that are coming out next year, and they're found in the Sydney Royal Botanic Gardens. And, when they're studied and used in the right way, they, really build resilience and health inside and out for our skin and our bodies. So, yeah, I think that is probably the exciting piece that's going to come out in the next sort of, couple of years.
Well, that's wonderful. And putting your crystal ball, I suppose, into place, and
And
probably just, some advanced knowledge that we all don't know
Yes.
about. Simon, what do you
I
think?
think from my perspective, I really do believe, and I've been working in this industry for about 30 odd years. I really do believe that we're just about to enter the golden age of pharmacognosy. I think it was very big and probably quite fashionable in the 70s, maybe. And then prior to that, quite a long time ago. But I really feel that we're just coming into a big up curve. And I think having people like me and pharmacognostists in brands, and having that knowledge, I think is really important because there's so many brands that don't have that knowledge. And again, being part of the B Corp, it's about how do we share that knowledge and how do we share that information to people. And that's really, for me, what it's about is about education. It's about how do we educate people. Because at the end of the day, people can make their own decisions as to what they want to purchase and things. But I think when you've got some credible information and you've got some proper backed by science information, I think brands like Skin Regimen LX are really going to shine in that kind of area because of that. So
And particularly having that B Corp certification, we're not just here to sell products, we're actually here to make a difference. And I feel like that's really starting to resonate with people more and more. They're conscious of what they're putting on their skin, but also for the planet. So I think they're really interconnected. And brands that will continue to do that will actually thrive in the future.
I love everything you both have said, and I think that it lends itself to that deeper philosophy of humans now. We did go through a stage where we were very disconnected, we were very technology focused, we were very, heads down kind of in our own little world. And I feel like we are opening up to this more interconnectedness between each other, but with our environment as well, which is so special. And we're all striving for that meaning in life, right? And I think this is just a beautiful conversation that highlights that brands have the power to lead the way in this, even if, perhaps society and culture isn't there yet. People with big influence, just such as, Davines, and also BLC, you've got a big voice out there. So I just want to thank you so much for coming, educating us, spending your time with us, and also for supporting ABIC and for supporting the industry as well. Thank you both.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Steph. It was fantastic.
We've had so much fun. Please come back and visit us, and thank you everyone for listening. Bye, everyone. You've reached the end of another episode of the ABIC podcast, your online support community for the aesthetic and beauty industry. Thank you for listening, and until next time, stay connected.